mean, if you're only doing 5 Percy Jacksons, and a lot of you said, have you ever thought about writing about other kinds of mythology? And I did think about that. I taught all kinds of different cultures and mythologies, and I got back to my teaching days, and as you saw in my classroom, I was big into Egypt, and that was one of my students' favorite units. All the old hieroglyphs and the mummies and the pyramids, pretty cool stuff. But very few people know about Egyptian mythology. We just don't know as much about it. I thought it would be fun if I could try to make the Egyptian myths come to life in the same way I did with Percy Jackson's world. And so, I began writing a new series called the Kane Chronicles. Like Anubis. And I would make them into the modern day. So, we got Anubis, Isis, Ra, Thoth, Horus, and Bast, the cat goddess. Well, it was a lot of fun. I made a story about these 2 kids, Carter and Sadie King, who discover that they are descended from ancient Egyptian magicians. And they are the only ones who know how to put the worst of them all, the worst god of all, Set, the god of chaos and evil, back into the underworld. I told their story in 3 books. We began with the Red Pyramid, and the story that Carter and Sadie wrapped up in May with the Serpent's Shadow. I loved that series. It was so much fun. I also, however, knew that a lot of you guys weren't quite ready to say goodbye to Percy Jackson's world. You wanted to hear more about that. I didn't blame you. I had a lot of different mythologies that I wanted to cover that I didn't get into the original Percy series. I was curious what would happen with Percy next as well. But I didn't want to do just the same old thing over and over. I didn't want to make continuations of Percy like Percy Jackson 17, Percy Jackson 35, Percy Jackson 265. Here comes the Minotaur again. Yeah, because I feel like if I did that, I would get bored, and if I'm bored, the writing wouldn't be as good, and then you guys would get bored too, and that's no good. So I started thinking, how can I go back to Camp Half-Blood? Version of the gods and a Roman version of the gods. 2 camps, Camp Half-Blood and another camp, a Roman camp. And they didn't know about each other. What if they found out about each other? Would that be really good or really bad? I made up a story about a different demigod named Jason Grace. But he's clearly a demigod. He has fabulous powers. He goes to Camp Half-Blood, yet he seems to be better at Latin than he is with Greek. He has these tattoos on his forearm. It's an SPQR, which is Roman. And they can't figure out who he is. Eventually, of course, we find out that he's a Roman demigod in the wrong camp, and things get very complicated. That story was The Lost Hero. One of the demigods, Leo, he turns Leo says, yeah, I decided to name the dragon Festus. It just sounded cool. And Jesus is like, you do realize Festus means happy in Latin, so you're telling me you want to ride off and save the world on Happy the Dragon. And Leo's like, yeah, cool. So when I was thinking about ideas for the name of the book, which, by the way, I always do that last, I come up with a title, I was talking to my sons, Haley and Patrick, and I said, all right, guys, what do you think? I'm thinking about calling it The Lost Hero. And they both got a grin on their face. They said, no, Dad, you need to call the book Happy the Dragon is Magical.